140.
Wow.
Crazy.
We have literally almost done our first all-women show. It will certainly and better not be the last out here at WFUV. For one, I've had a great time. Just
I have as
throwing
well.
that out
This
there
is so
right
much
now.
fun.
This has been incredible. And I hope that we get to do it. I'm so sad that I'm leaving. Honestly, I don't know when I'll get to do it again, but I hope that you both get to do this again and get to just keep adding more women. As Isa said, she put it so perfectly. Pull as you climb. And I loved that. And I just hope that that's something that I can do for you guys. And that's something that hopefully you guys can do for others. And that we're just continuing this WFUV women success.
Uptick.
Yeah, uptick. Absolute success. So on that note, on that theme, let's talk about our favorite women in sports, particularly because this is a sports show. As much as we try to make it not, it is a sports show, and we are a sports network. So just some of your favorite moments as a woman, an athlete yourself. I don't know if you guys. I mean, I know you're golfers. I don't know if you guys played other sports.
I did.
What'd you play?
I played soccer.
Okay, Sam.
I was a competitive dancer for 16 years.
Okay. I was a tennis player.
Oh. Okay, Serena.
Yeah, I mean, I was second in my county.
Wow.
So maybe was really good. But I want to hear just sort of what are like women athletes that you look up to, women broadcasters, if any.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I said, I grew up playing soccer. I probably played soccer for, 14 years, I think is how long I played.
That is a long time.
Yeah, throughout my whole childhood. And so growing up, obviously, in the U.S., while the men are making a nice run to Qatar this year, you can't forget about the U.S. women's team.
You cannot.
Who has literally carried the U.S. mantle for the past 2 decades.
Shout out Julia Moss right here.
Shout out Julia Moss.
She's the beat reporter.
She is. Ooh. And I think women's soccer definitely was so foundational in my love for sports and what women can really do as athletes. I will always remember, the Mia Hamm goal celebration.
Wow, yeah.
I will, always treasure going to, at home, like I would go to women's college soccer games, and I would see her out there at games. I would see Carla Overbeck, another former U.S. woman, out there at the Duke games. It's something to really see that a woman really can continue to make strides in her career even after she retires as an athlete.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing to be wanted and be a mentor for other young athletes coming up, because it's a really demanding sport. Like, I give them a lot of credit because these women, I feel like, are not getting enough credit. They do not get
never do.
Finally getting some equal pay after a long lawsuit, which has been much deserved. When you are embleming 4 stars on your jersey and all of them are from your women's team and they're not being paid equal, there is a problem in the room. And I'm so glad it finally has worked out. And, I really just looked up to people like Alex Morgan or Megan Rapinoe throughout my career, like even as kind of branching into sports broadcasting, them standing up and saying, hey, we know this isn't right. This should be the case. We're not afraid to speak our mind. We don't care what happens. This is important to us. I think that translates to tons of women no matter what they're in, even if it's not sports. I think it's important for women to have that role and be important in no matter what field kind of you focus on. And so I think soccer was kind of my foundation for it, because I feel like so many other sports that I watched growing up, like baseball or football or basketball, it's been the men.
Yeah.
You really rarely ever get to hear about the women, but soccer has always been, for me, this is a woman's game now with all of that U.S. success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of that echoed. I think for me, the women's national soccer team, not that I'm the biggest soccer girl ever, but like I watch those games when they're on because these women are so athletic.
Yeah.
They are so powerful. And of course they're athletic. I mean, they're just insane athletes. For me growing up, I was a gymnast before I was a dancer.
Ooh.
So to me, gymnasts were like my way of being like, these are athletes. And I think that what's so fascinating about sports like gymnastics, people argue if dance is a sport or not. I go back and forth. It's athletic nevertheless. People consider these not real sports or things like that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, the training you have to do, the amount of hours you have to spend, the weights you have to lift, it is so hard. it is so hard. And I always love when they do those videos of like a football player and a gymnast go head to head, because I'm like, you think that these women are just as athletic as these men. They are, if not more. For me, I mean, watching like Shawn Johnson and Nastia Liukin at the Olympics literally changed my life. Like that team, this is going to be a crazy thing to say, I was at those Olympics.
What?
Really?
Yeah. I got to go to Beijing because somehow the company my dad worked for somehow hooked it up, and he was like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let's go.
Yeah.
We went, and seeing them in person was like the most life-changing moment for me ever, because I was like, you are the epitome of athleticism to me, and they are graceful and talented and smart, and people like Simone Biles,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Ali Raisman, all of them are so strong, so eloquent, so talented. They were, for real, my first venture into athleticism, of like the women's world of athletics and sports. Now, as I become a bigger hockey person, there are families, as we know, like we were talking about, Maddie and I were talking yesterday about this whole chain of brothers in the NHL and things like that. There are brothers and sister pairings that I think are so unstoppable. JT Compher and Jesse Compher. JT Compher is a great player for the Avalanche. His sister Jessie was on the U.S. national team. She went to the Olympics. She is obscenely good. Abby Newhook, Alex Newhook's sister, she is also obscenely good. And I think it's important to recognize them as Jessie Compher, the athlete, Abby Newhook, the athlete, not Jessie Compher, JT's sister,
Right.
or Alex's sister, because that's not what they are. They are fantastic in their own right. They have their own crazy stats. They have their own accolades. And I think for me that is so important to recognize. And seeing them be so successful on their own. Freaking Jessie Compher is such a baddie. She came to watch an Avs game the other night, and she brought her silver medal with her from the
I love
Olympics.
Good for her.
And I was like, as you should, because you
You earned that.
unstoppable.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she's like, yeah. And I critique my brother in his game. And I'm like, as you should, because you are just as good, if not better.
No, and absolutely. And it's interesting, honestly, I think, with the sports that you guys shouted out just in the beginning, soccer and gymnastics and then tennis, because those are sports where I feel like women are incredible at. Not that women are not incredible in all sports, but it is so underappreciated in other things. Like in hockey, like you barely hear about women hockey players. People, even though the WNBA is definitely getting better and more popular, people still talk a little less about them. Whereas like Serena Williams is a huge name, like Mia Hamm is a huge name, you know, Simone Biles, like those are sports where I don't understand necessarily why, but they are sports that like women already sort of are dominant in. But there's still so much double standards, as you were talking about with the pay, and even with like Serena Williams, like reacting to things. I remember it was a couple years ago or whatever, and she got mad at the line judge and then got a fine. Whereas like Novak Djokovic like breaks his racket and nobody cares. You know what I mean? And that's normal because he's a man and he can't control that. And somehow we as women can.
We're supposed to.
Or yeah, we're supposed to do it, whereas men don't have to. And so I just think that like in the sports that you guys all called out, it's so interesting that we like internally are looking up to sports where we already know that women are a little bit more established in. And I think that that's really hard. Maria Travelpiece was saying that she always wanted to play football.
Yeah.
And the NFL actually, I was looking into this the other day, they have no like law, rule, whatever that says a woman can't play. There is nothing that says you have to be a man to be a part of the NFL. But women don't play because like Isis was saying, if you don't have representation there, how do you know you can walk there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard because like I even see like those high school stories of like a woman being the kicker for the team. And I, of course, am like, this
Sarah
is fantastic.
Fuller.
Yes, exactly. And then people are like, oh, well, it was only like 25 yards. They're like, that's not whatever. Or she'll miss. And then they're like, that's exactly why she's on this team. And
Right.
like, that is so...
That pressure is
so insane. And like as a woman in sports, as a broadcaster, I don't know about the two of you. I feel like there is this constant pressure to be perfect. I feel like I have to come with 10 pages of stats every time we're on air. I have to come with everything. I go to these games and I have to double, triple check everything because if I don't, people will eat me alive. Not saying that people don't criticize men because sure they do. And like social media is a mean place regardless. But I feel like if I mess something up, people aren't going to be like, oh, she made a mistake. It's going to be like, oh, she made a mistake because she's a woman, because she's unprepared.
No, yes.
Yeah.
And it's this feeling of constantly having to do 10 times more prep for maybe the same amount of results.